Today we celebrate what is among one of the most extraordinary feasts of our church. Because ordinarily the feasts of our church commemorate the lives of our Lord or our Blessed Mother, or else one of the saints, or some event in the life of our Lord that we recall with importance because of what it signifies for our salvation. There are, of course, certain exceptions. We think of there being the solemnity of the birth of John the Baptist, the beheading, of John the Baptist. These are certainly all things, though, that point towards our salvation. And yet today, we mark the feast of Mary doing something that seems rather ordinary. The fact that she went to visit her cousin. This does not seem like something that worthy of making a big deal out of. And yet, for centuries in our church, we have seen this specific event as being something worth our noticing. Why? Because in this act, we see contained in the life of Our Lady the entire vision of Christian discipleship. We see in her gesture of doing something seemingly innocuous everything that it means to follow her Son. When Mary went to visit Elizabeth, she was already following the child in her womb, whom she had not yet even held in her arms. Because the consequences of having Christ within you are such that you are driven out to love and to serve. From the moment that Christ was conceived in her womb, Mary was driven out to serve others and to love them. That is not to say she was not already capable of that before the conception of Christ, but at that moment, something new happened to her. The consequences of having Christ within us drive us forward. When you are a 14-year-old girl and an angel comes and tells you you're going to give birth to God's Son, the first reaction, at least to my mind, would not be to jump up and run 70 miles to go and attend to someone else who is in need. Yet that is what she did. Because what was conceived within her was no ordinary pregnancy. God had visited his people, but first by visiting her. And in visiting her, she could not help but go to visit others, to bring Christ to them. What is the consequence in our life for Christ having come to visit us? Are we driven out by love to serve anyone we can, simply because of our awareness that Christ is dwelling within us? Not only is he dwelling within us by the indwelling of the Trinity in our souls because of our baptism, but at every Mass, when we go to him in Holy Communion, are we not also carrying him inside of us? Just in the same way that Our Lady was? Are we bringing him to the world? Are we bringing him to those in need? To those who are suffering? To those who have maybe as of yet not met him? Whether we mean to or not, we are. We bring the hidden presence of Christ into the world every time we step out of the doors of this chapel. This is the cause of our rejoicing. That is why it has been the tradition of the church every evening for thousands of years to borrow these words of Mary in praise of God's goodness for having come to visit us as we go and visit the world on his behalf. Tomorrow we enter the month of June, a month in which we more carefully focus our attention on the Eucharist because of the presence of the Feast of Corpus Christi, which almost always falls in the month of June. And so we should already begin turning our hearts and our minds towards this great privilege of we who receive our Lord so often, if not even daily, bringing him into the world. That we become like Mary. We will do this in a beautiful way on the Feast of Corpus Christi, when as a parish community, we will bring our Lord into the streets of our community in procession with the Blessed Sacrament. We will be following in the footsteps of Mary, who, having received the Lord into our hearts, can do nothing but bring him out. Bring him to the world, to a world who does not know him, to a world who does not know that they need him, but to a world who can only be saved by him.